Since when supporters of the Prime Minister and the PNM have become such gentle little flowers? And I must talk about the great purge taking place in the United States. But first, folks, welcome back to Viewpoint Talking Point Memo number 3. It's great to have you guys, and I promise to try and be as brief as I possibly can because I know I said these memos are not going to be long. So, as I was mentioning before, I am so curious to find out since when the supporters of the People's National Movement have become such gentle little flowers. It seems as though they look for every little thing that one would comment about the Prime Minister to jump on and to call um, everything so heinous in relation to the Prime Minister, want to comment negative or make some sort of criticism. Most recently, for example, at some Monday night forum, the leader of the opposition, Ms. Kamala Prasad Bisasas, made a comment whereby she said that the education system is collapsing, the economy is collapsing, and then she said it seems as though even some members of the government collapsing. Now, I'm not sure if she's referencing the Prime Minister in terms of what happened with him with his recent visit to the hospital. But regardless of what, I doubt very much she was. But even if it was, I mean, how in heaven's name could PNM supporters become so emotional? They've all jumped out. I mean, like all of these flowers all of a sudden just blossom at the same time, and they start talking about, oh, how she could say something so evil and so insensitive. Really, supporters of the PNM, come on, better than that. You're embarrassing yourself. You're showing some sort of level of weakness. It seems as though no one can criticize this prime minister and escape unscathed. Famous words. But really, I mean, I remember when this prime minister has nothing good to say and still doesn't have anything good to say about the leader of the opposition. But no one seemed to comment or remember those things. I mean, so is it that those statements back then that the prime minister would have made up against the leader of the opposition was good? It was deemed fair game? I mean, I barely even heard anyone say anything about it. This prime minister has a track record of saying the most vile thing against women. Remember when the golf course comment or he can't be in your bedroom comment? No one said nothing. Especially at a time when, you know, domestic violence is taking place against women in such large number. No one seems to talk about the leadership of his country regards his statements against women. It's almost as if he has become some sort of the new sacred cow. Oh my God, Brian, I should not have gone on that road. Now they're going to say that, oh, I am calling the Prime Minister cow. But I'll do no such insults to cows. Oh, look what I did again. I placed myself in even more hot water. Come on, supporters of the PNM. Is there no more political peacock? Isn't it everything that the Prime Minister would have said in previous times that it was political peacock and was nothing fair, it was all part of the political electioneering and all that stuff? Where has all that gone to? Where has all that disappeared to? Really, really. I'm pretty sure this PNM group party survived all these years because the people, the membership back then, and hopefully now are strong-minded people. And a little statement would not hurt their feelings or affect them in any significant way. Really, stand up, show your strength. I mean, it's ridiculous how you guys are singing. At a time when this government has basically gutted the procurement legislation, removing all teeth from the procurement regulator for even simple things such as medical services, can someone please tell me what is it in medical services that this government intends to hide from the procurement regulator? I have no idea what it is, but it seems as though there's something in the mix with regards to medical services because obviously it has not been exempted from the procurement regulator. But more than that, at a time when government is now attempting to remove the three-fifths majority from key pieces of legislation that will impact upon the rights of citizens, they don't want those things to pass with special majority anymore. All this is taking place. Added to which, Cuba has now been designated as state sponsor of terrorism, for assisting the Maduro regime in Venezuela. And Trinidad has done so much trade with Cuba. But now, CARICOM has to make a decision in regards to how are they going to treat Cuba. Are they going to trade with a terrorist state? Trading with a terrorist state then puts you in line for sanctions from United States and their allies as well. all this taking place, all these critical issues going on, and it would seem as though PNM supporters just seem to be silent. But lo and behold, Kamala Prasad Bisesa made a simple statement and everyone lose it. It's amazing. It seems as though we don't have our priorities right in this country. So much is taking place, but the simple issues, the simple things in the non-essential seems to bug PNM supporters more than the critical things that will affect not just them, but all citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know, folks. I don't know what else needs to be said to convince everyone that the direction that this country is heading is not very optimistic. As I mentioned, I want to talk about this entire purge, this great purge taking place in the United States right now. It would seem as though big tech companies, social media companies, Apple, Google, they have now embarked upon a mission to remove all conservative voices from their platform. Now, if you're a believer in free speech, if you're a believer, for example, in the United States First Amendment, which is about free speech, then this should have you very, very concerned. Because as I've always mentioned before, it's only through dialogue could we come to some sort of mutual understanding of opposing sides' point of view. But big tech companies, they are now removing conservative voices from their platforms. Now, regardless of whatever it's subscribers or its viewers, or limiting the search engine scripts to prevent you from finding conservative voices. What is taking place is very, very scary in the United States right now, and the implications to the Caribbean can already be seen, because you're seeing it how the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is now attempting to vilify every single statement that the opposition makes or critics of the government make, to the point where it's attempting to put the critics in a position whereby they are now the ones to be seen as evil, as opposing, and not just as having a debate with regards to opposing points of view. And that in and itself is very scary. Folks, the majority of these views that being put forward is comes from the mainstream media. If it is that you're getting your news from ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, that comedy network called CNN, I have news for you. Those are not news sites. Those are tabloids now. For 4 years, they have written or published or showed not one good thing from the Trump administration. Do you really expect them to put anything fear-minded? Like I've always said, I have no problem with people picking a side, a political side, but to come out here now and pretend that you're somehow independent or holier than thou, it's wrong to even say the least about it. Now, this whole purge has been taking place for quite some time now. If you've been following news, you realize that how these social media sites have always been tampering and trying to keep down the conservative voice, because they're all liberal minded in their thinking. They hate the ideology of trying to force companies to compete fairly. They want to maintain their monopoly status. That way they can maintain their control. And Trump has always been against these things. That's why they're now coming out in such, large numbers and trying to prevent conservative voices and banning them. Like I've always said, if you when you ban someone from having free speech, how next do you expect such a person to express themselves? No free speech, then what? It's not right to support systems that allow you to ban free speech. It's time to remove these monopoly status, these 230s rights that these companies have. And I hope in some form that such rights will be removed. I, for example, have taken a personal position against these big tech companies. I have now deactivated my personal Twitter account, because if it is that you're banning Trump today, or well, not today, but whenever you ban Trump or you ban other conservative voices, tomorrow could very well be my turn to be banned. So I'm not going to support this in any form or fashion. It's irrational to think that the Ayatollah of Iran, the North Korean leader, all these other terrorist country leaders could have Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts, but Trump can't have an account. How can I support something like that? How could anyone support something like that? I don't understand how that even makes logical sense. And as I've mentioned before, you've seen it transcend into Trinidad and Tobago now, whereby the government is now taking position to report critics' Facebook page to Facebook. Susan Lowe, for example, has been reported. Her Facebook page has been reported. She wasn't banned because they found nothing wrong with what she was doing, but still, it's starting to show whereby they are now the critics of the government. They are now resorting to report their sites or their page as whatever terminology they're using to report them, but it's wrong. We should always be allowed to have free speech, because without free speech, as I've said, the next alternative to express yourself, if there's no free speech, sadly, it's something but none of us want to think about. So, as I mentioned before, I want to keep these talking point memos short. So, stay stay tuned, folks, and stay tuned for episode number 27.